BBC Essex Sports Extra
with Ian Puckey.
The Essex drag team that's been named the fastest in Europe. We're going to meet them next.
BBC Essex Sports Extra
with Ian Puckey.
And we're going to start today with a sport that probably lasts for the least amount of time of any sport I've ever covered on this programme. In fact, if it goes well, it lasts less than 6 seconds and can reach speeds of 200 plus miles an hour. The Venom drag racing team, based in Clacton, recently got the accolade the fastest in Europe. I'm delighted to say team member Nigel Fitzmaurice and Tony Betts, the driver, with me in the studio. Gentlemen, good afternoon to you.
Thank you very much.
Good
indeed.
evening.
Good to have you both here. Tony, I better start with you, as you're the guy that is in charge of steering this hulk of a machine down a very narrow track. How fast can you go?
The quickest we've been is 250 mile an hour, and the time was 5.89 seconds. That's from a standing start. So the actual one that sort of baffles most people is we do like 0 to 100 mile an hour in a second. So,
0 to 100 miles an hour in 1 second.
So when you hear your Ferraris 0 to 60 in 3 and 4 seconds, don't stand a chance. You know?
I think my Skoda, you could measure it in days in the time it takes to get to 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, fair play.
Nigel, what's it like standing on the sideline and watching these beasts of a machine just accelerate down the track?
Many years, and I used to be involved with the radio in drag racing. It's an amazing sport, right from the classes, the juniors, right the way through to obviously the top end cars as well. It's just something else. It's something that people need to experience. When Tony's car goes on the next level up, the top fuel funny cars, it's almost like a rocket sound, if you like. It's just instant. You just can't beat it. The sound, the smells, and everything is just something else. They burn out with the tyres and everything else on the start line, and then obviously they get into stage and go. And it's just an incredible sport. It's amazing.
Someone told me that about motorsport. They said it's the one sport that hits all your senses. So, you know, the noise, the sight, the smell, the feel of it, you can almost feel it vibrating through your chest.
Yeah, well, now someone like Tony, when he's pulling X amount of G's, like a Red Arrows pilot, he'll tell you.
So, Tony, when you set off, and you're just pushed right back in your seat, are you?
Yeah, it's like a train hitting you up from behind, like, you know. It's I think we get about 3 or 4 G's off the line, and then once I pull the chutes at the top end, we're sort of negative G's of about 3 or 4. So it gets your attention, definitely, but it's just one of them sports that the families all get involved. We've got children that come and do drawings for us. We've had them come around the house, see the car. It's a really close-knit community, like, you know.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see, I must admit.
I've got to say, when I was doing some research earlier on, and I was looking through the website and looking at all the job titles, and at least 2 of the people are responsible for parachutes, and that told me so much about this sport. You can't just hit the brakes in this, can you?
No, I mean, some drivers don't have faith in other people and do them themselves. I've got 2 people who do mine, Leslie and Craig, and you know, I've got no fear of anything. I know when I pull them chutes, they're going to come out, like, you know.
Except for once when he ends up in the field at the end. He was ploughing the field.
Yeah, we had a malfunction on the actual actuator inside the cockpit light, and I went through. There's a video on my site, like, you know, and it's fantastic. It's just going through the top end. We was doing 250. By the time I'd sort of started to slow down, we was probably about 275, 280, and it wasn't stopping.
I mean, do you even have time to think or react when something like that happens?
Yeah, you try and break the track down into certain measures. So, like, you've got 100 foot, you've got 300 foot, you've got half track, and you try and break it down that you should be doing certain things within this time frame, like, you know. And 9 out of 10 times we try and get it right, but there's obviously the odd one that it doesn't work. So,
Nigel, in terms of what you put in these beasts, and I'm not talking about Tony here, I'm talking about the car. It's not unleaded, is it? What are you fueling ththese things with?
But it's nitromethane is the fuel that you put into the car. Very expensive, and it's a lot of money. And it's almost like if you stood in the pits and they started the car up, it's almost like a tear gas
Right.
effect. It's a big green haze, really, isn't it, Tony?
Yeah, we all wear like gas masks when we run the car up in the pits. But once the body comes down over me, when we start it up at the start line, then the exhausts are all on the outside. So the noise goes really quiet and it's a really surreal moment. You're in your comfort zone and you just look down the track and you know where you got to go and where you're hoping to end up in a quick time. So.
Now, I know it's a straight line, but presumably you've got to correct it if it starts to go
definitely.
off course. I mean, again, how easy is it to steer something at 200 miles an hour, 250 miles an hour? The slightest correction must send it miles away.
Yeah, I mean, you've only got to be a little bit out on your tyre pressures or anything like that, and you're actually steering it. You know, you're not going in a straight line. There's a video on there of me actually driving the car down there, and it's unbelievable. I didn't even realise how much I was steering it. So, you know, it's
not a steering wheel. It's about this big.
It's a butterfly.
It's a butterfly.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
There's no steering wheel.
It's a sport that you wish everybody could have one go, you know. I've stood in the middle of two top fuel cars in America, and when they go, and like you said, the vibration through your chest is astronomical. It's like nothing else, you know. It's a sport that you couldn't match with Formula One. Fantastic, they go around corners quick and all that, but there's no sport out there with the amount of power that these cars produce, like, you know.
What did you have to do then to be declared the fastest in Europe? Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, the record with the class we was in, which was Nostalgia Funny Car, you had to run a 21 gallon per minute pump. You had to run a 671 supercharger. You've got a 3-plate clutch. You've got a 2-speed gearbox. So everything had to fit a criteria. And I've tried for years. I think it's probably been 20 years like with this class and trying to run a 5-second run, and we finally done it, and we had a couple of sponsors there, so that was even better, like, you know. And you see videos come up on Facebook, and it's just a brilliant way of getting your name out there or a logo out there, you know. It's an awesome sport.
How expensive is it to run a team like this? You touched on sponsors there. How expensive is it? I mean, you're racing in Europe, you're putting this high-tech fuel into a car. You know, Tony's driving it into fields. How expensive is it to...
Could I just ask if my wife is listening to this?
She's the bank manager. Elaine, bank manager. Just for a meeting, I mean, Tony better tell you, for the crew and everyone that is there, I mean, you imagine they got trailers, obviously they got people staying there, and everything.
I think fuel, oil, spark plugs, bearings, food, my wife will say, is the biggest expense because she cooks some fantastic food. So you're looking at about £5,000 for a weekend.
Wow.
Of that, we've got some we're fortunate to have some very good sponsors. They come on board and they help pay for certain things. We've just got NGK come on and supply the spark plugs. We got J.A. Mackenzie supply the nitro and the oil. We got Top Speed Automotive. We got Hydro Hose, who is a local company to us here. So without them, it would be very difficult, if impossible, really. And then the track pay us run money as well, and it almost covers it. You know, obviously, like I said, you got to have a sort of an understanding wife. But yeah, it's
the actual nitro fuel on its own.
It's about £25 a gallon. So,
and that is one run.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll use probably 9 gallons on a quarter-mile run. So
it's doing 36 gallons to the mile.
Yeah.
Of a fuel that costs £25. Suddenly Moscona doesn't feel so bad after all. Guys, I could talk to you all day, but how did you get into this in the first place? This is quite a niche sport.
Yeah.
How did you get into it?
I've gone up through the ranks. So I started with the Morris 1000 with a E-type engine in it, and then you get the feel for speed, and then you want to go a little bit quicker. So I went from that to a pop. I then had a Vauxhall Forenza that I sold to Malta, and they said that I had to go out there to race it for them. We went over there, we won the meeting, broke the records over there, and then gradually stepped up through fuel orchards to funny cars. And then on my 60th birthday, my wife paid for us to go to America to race over there. So it was, I've ticked a lot of boxes.
Nigel, how did you get into this?
Basically, I was working in radio, and a friend of mine who used to be Custom Car magazine editor said to me, "Nigel, you want to do this? Come to Nitro." And at those days, it was Nitro AM, and it was one of those special event licenses.
Right.
Yeah. And so I ended up presenting on there. And then went Nitro FM, and I stayed with them for a number of years. Then I went back again in 2000, and then now I do the podcasting. So if anyone's interested, it's Stepping Out with Nigel, and it's on YouTube and Facebook, and you can see all of the drivers and the riders from the bikes doing interviews with me, and it gives you a little bit more of a input into what they're like. It's the face behind the helmet, if you see what I mean. So that's how I've got involved in it. And over the years, obviously, I've got a lot of friends in it. So I've been doing it since 1984.
Well, guys, it sounds amazing. If I've whetted people's appetite, are you on other social media as well, or is there a website about your team?
Yeah, they can look on Venom Racing. We got our own website on there, and we're on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, as many as we can. We try and promote our sponsors as much as we can, and it's also the children.
Yeah.
So there was one young lad, his dad sent me a thing saying, could you send him a picture for his birthday? Well, we done better than that. We went up there and took him the present up there, and his mum and dad were crying, he was crying. It was lovely, you know.
That's what it's about.
But
That's what it's about.
that's what we do,
Yeah.
you know.
When are you in action next, Tony?
End of April. Yeah, so can't wait.
Good luck for that.
Brilliant.
Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Ian.
Ian.
Thank you so much for coming in. That's Team Venom, Nigel Fitzmaurice and Tony Betts, who, as you just heard, can send a machine down a track at 250 miles an hour. Incredible stuff.
BBC Essex Sports Extra.
With Ian Puckey.